Hello there and welcome Pro Wrestling Inside Out. Who said that we would not be back on this week? Last week we had some pressing business to take care of. Rodney go pick up his car. So I think he had some great times with that. I don't even think you ended up being able to pick your car up, did was you?
Nope, I did not. But we got her under. It looks great. They did a good job.
Georgia Championship Wrestling poster up here. I can't remember now what the size of this is. 18 by 24, I believe. You can get that right now. It's a good poster. Get that over there. Help out the old folks at Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. We always need help, mentally and financially all the time. Uh, Jack, what's going on in the world of professional wrestling? I have heard some things, and we'll talk about what's going on that we need to know.
Nothing interested.
There you go. Rodney, anything going on in the world of professional wrestling that you found
Well,
interesting?
I think at first we really need to talk about the Iron Sheik and his passing. I think
Oh,
that's
yes.
Yeah.
right off the front of the bat. Tremendously gifted wrestler. He could stir a crowd up better than anybody I'd ever seen in my entire life. Tremendous athlete. Was in the Olympics with Iran. I think he was in Mexico. I think is where it was at. And then later on, he goes to work in professional wrestling, being trained by Vern Gagne, or as we call him, Vernie Gagne and Billy Robinson. And that started off in 1972, and it kicked off from there when he first started. Have you ever seen a picture of him when he first started, Brent?
Yes, I have.
Let's check it out. I put some up. Let's take a look at him. Right there he is.
Yeah.
I would have never, when you first look, I wouldn't think that was him, but there he is. He's and
I thought it was Tommy Gilbert for a minute.
there. Well, that is later. Let's see. Here he is with Danny Hodge,
Wow.
and yeah, you always look tremendous shape, the Sheik, and he's it's him and whoops, that's not the right guy. There he is again. Just as he gets it, then of course he had I don't know how many names. Let's see, I had them written down. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different names in his wrestling career, and he pretty much, he pretty much was used pretty decently everywhere he went, and then really, I think, really came to really prominence by working with Mid Atlantic with Crockett Promotion. Uh, was the Mid Atlantic champion. I remember that specifically. And at the time, I believe he was not only because he didn't go as Iron Sheik always. He was a great Hussein in some places, and Hussein Arab. And I believe that's what his name was in Mid Atlantic. He was the Iron Sheik Hussein Arab. In fact, I think I remember Bob Caudle saying that when I was watching some of the videos of him. And like I said, he was the let's see, here he is, the Mid Atlantic champion right there. Still hasn't reached it, but he got the good boots now.
I don't remember that belt being so big. That thing was huge.
Yeah, there he is there.
What was
And
he?
he
A world
made a
tag
lot of
team
money. He
champion?
lost the
Well,
title
right?
to Ricky Steamboat later on. He held it for about 6 months. And he was managed, of course, by Gene Anderson, which I think this picture is actually from Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. But yeah, there he was and he was managed by Gene Anderson. And then, of course, later on, he heads out, and this will make the second time he was in the WWF. And then he becomes a champion by beating Bob Backlund. And then, of course, he loses, of course, to Hulk Hogan. And then the big feud between he and Sergeant Slaughter, which I believe was drawing some major houses and tremendous stuff. Yeah. And, of course, teaming with Nikolai. Everybody remembers that. They were tag team champions. That's the Sheik. And definitely a character, no doubt. Ole Anderson loved him. He was a national champ. He worked in Georgia. Ole loved the guy.
He did love him, but boy, he was a little mean to him.
Yeah.
He was a
He
little mean.
liked Ole liked the fact that he was a real athlete
Yes.
and could wrestle. And Ole attacked him at the TV during interviews on one Tuesday, and he hit his head on the back of his head, busted his head on the table at the TV studio on TBS.
He would take his little and throw it way and you know this TV station was not a high TV station, and it wasn't. I don't know, maybe 16 feet, maybe the most. And he took his little headdress and threw it over the top of them little rafters, and Sheik did not. Now, did he? I want to ask this question: did Sheik ever go to the top rope?
Yes, yeah. He took some slams from the top rope.
Well,
Yeah,
for
sure
some
did.
reason, he was afraid to go up. He was afraid to go up that ladder to go get his little hairdress, and we went up there and got it for him. I was thinking, man, what's maybe he didn't like ladders. Maybe that was maybe he
Well,
had.
some people don't like heights. I'm one of them.
Yeah, but if he got on the top rope and come off of it, I mean, it could have been no, because let's be honest, the TV station WTBS Studios wasn't like it was 22 feet up in the air or something. I mean, it was only about 16. It was very close to the ground. So, but Ole was kind of mean to him though. Just the little time we were, I think, because he liked him.
Yeah, I think he had a lot of respect for him for the fact that he could wrestle, and Ole liked him. He really did.
Anybody watch Victor Nash asked the question? Anybody watch Collision? AEW Collision?
No, I was afraid it really would be a collision, so I stayed away from it. I have seen completely opposite viewpoints on there. Our friend Evan Ginsberg, who is a huge fan of AEW and a huge fan of a lot of the wrestlers on there, but he said that was the biggest car wreck he had ever seen. There was just no direction to it. And as a matter of fact, I have I won't tell his name because I don't want to get him fired, but I have a good friend that works there. And I was talking to him day before yesterday, and he said it's just, he said that if it seems like a wreck on TV, he said you really should see it backstage.
Well, maybe they should change the name from Collision to Wreck.
Yeah,
That might be better.
but he said it's just, he said you never know who's in charge of what. He says it changes from taping to taping, and there's just no consistency. He said everybody's happy because everybody's making money, but he said at the same time it's very frustrating because everything's getting turned and thrown around, and you just don't know what is going on at any one time.
Professional wrestling, when you look at it, I had a conversation with someone sometime last week at the end of the week, and they said, wrestling's never been as successful, and 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 when you look at a financial standpoint, WWE is successful at a financial standpoint. But if you look at let's say attendance wise, and yes, their pay per views do well. But when you look at how many people watch wrestling on a weekly basis, probably the lowest it's ever been in the history in 125 years of wrestling.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're not making money, but would they be making that money if the people that are in those positions, and I feel like this is what's happening with this, Vince McMahon has power and he has the ability to give people jobs. So if we help Vince, and then someday down the line, he may be able to help me when I don't have a job. It's just that kind of thing. And then when you look at Tony Khan and his family, well, if I need something, he's a billionaire. I'll be able to go to him. I'll be able to get it. I don't think it's because the shows are successful. It's just that the people who are running those are successful because it was other times they were successful, not particularly right now. And it's sad to see that WWE will all at once, you'll think they're going to do well. They're going to do 2.3 million. Then they drop all the way back to 1.6. And you kind of, what did they do? What happened? What did they do within a program to go that bad? I mean, what do you think, Rodney? I mean, is it success, or is it just the nature of the business relationships that Tony Khan and what's his dad's name? Tony Khan's dad's name?
Sadiq, isn't it? Sadiq
Sadiq.
Khan, something to that point. They're having. I know that they're having a big to do over the new stadium in Jacksonville. He's trying to strong arm the government down there, city of Jacksonville, for money to build a stadium. Which, if he has the money, he can build it himself. He's going to be the one that basically profits from it.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah, I think Shad. That's right. Kevin said it, Shad. To me, what we're seeing, and I think it was in a what we're seeing, it basically is wrestling as Paul Heyman, and I was going to talk about it later, but Paul Heyman said the future of wrestling is not in the ring; it's going to be outside the ring. And that's something. It's not something that's going to happen. It's already there. It's more. The stuff's already more important on the outside, and that's because most of the wrestlers want to be actors and not wrestlers in the first place. Another article said that it was time to revolutionize. Wrestling needs a revolution and needs some changes to them. And basically, what he was saying is that in that article, that it needs to be more believable. That was exactly what he was talking about, being more believable. How if you have a match with, say, Judgment Day, and the entire stable is at ringside? Why is this entire stable at ringside? So, to me, what we're seeing is that it's a transition, getting away from wrestling business completely. You've got really Tony Khan and his family has nothing to do with the wrestling business, doesn't know the wrestling business, wouldn't know what building a town is if you come up there and smacked him in the face with it. Wouldn't know how to do it, doesn't know how to do it, doesn't want to do it. Okay, so basically these programs, these two wrestling companies are not really do not depend on ticket sales as much as they do for their TV contracts. It's all about television. Nothing else. Nothing else matters. Not really even the fan base really matters to them. All it matters is their TV contract. As you can see, Tony Khan having multiple orgasms over having contract with, Warner Brother Discovery. And so what's happening is that now the fans are not the main objective. It's that how they can please the TV producers. It's how Vince can produce and please USA or please Fox or whoever else he's trying to go with. And that's the same thing with Tony. He's Tony Khan. He's trying to please Warner Brother Discovery. He's not interested in pleasing the fans whatsoever.
Well, and I had heard that the contract that he's signed now with Warner Brothers renewal over, I think it's 5 years, is going to be close to $1 billion.
Wow.
That's significant money. I don't care who you are. And, and if Warner Brothers is happy with that 700 to 900,000, under $1 million all the time, more power to them. Quite frankly, that probably does draw more than any other programming that they have. Yeah. So I guess that's the way they're looking at it, and probably the production costs overall is a lot cheaper for them to do. We've always known wrestling's cheaper to produce than any other kind of live action show. So, there's a lot of things out there, and we're talking about other revenue streams. WWE beats just about every other professional sports franchise out there on social media hit. Yeah. And that's incredible. It's not always about the show itself, because that's the only way I've watched it for the last month is I'll pick up clips here and there of stuff that I might be interested. I don't think AEW has even touched that market as much as they should be.
But do you think they understand? And I'm talking Tony Khan, Vince McMahon, Nick Khan. Do you think they understand that cable's decline is drastically happening on a yearly basis? And if it continues on the decline that it is, and I believe that's the reason Vince and wrestling in its general on cable television is not doing well. If it continuously declines by 2028, more than 75% of the people are going to cancel cable. Will they be able to maintain? Will these cable companies? Will not really Fox, But will USA Network, will they be able to do that when people are dropping cable? It's a trend that has started since 2010, and
Yeah.
it has just drastically here we are, and here we are now. I mean, we're almost off the screen of how many people have cable. Do you think they're looking at this WWE and saying, "What are we going to do future?" Because I don't think there's going to be cable.
Well, uh, when people are getting off cable, the majority of them are going to different ways to get their programming. YouTube TV, and all those other Sling, all those other offerings out there, and USA is a part of that. So if they're avid wrestling watchers, uh, they're still that basic base of what they're drawing. I don't think it's going to change a whole lot.
Yeah.
But as the population increases and you're not growing, then you're missing something. Because we've talked about this 1,000 times on here about the numbers as far as fans watching has changed so much in the last 20 something years.
Yeah.
The whole WCW buyout deal was the thought process was, now that WCW is out of business, all those fans are going to come to us. And they didn't.
Yeah.
And it's just been a downhill slide since then.
Yeah, it's a scary situation. If I was a promoter in wrestling and if I had stuff on cable television, because even apps themselves are doing horrible. The Peacock Network is losing money. The only one that really makes money is Netflix. So even the apps are not doing well. So but YouTube is doing incredible business. I
Yeah.
think it is like where everybody watches the program. I think ESPN is going directly to YouTube. They're not going to be nothing on YouTube. So, I guess when you look at that, because everything I watch clips and stuff on YouTube. I do
Now, my understanding is Tubi is very popular as well, and it's not a subscription base. It's still free. It has commercials in it like regular. I've read an article where that these ideas of having a pay service such as YouTube TV, Sling, and all that, they're going to be going to, even Disney are going to go to a more of a commercial driven model, because the subscription model is not working for them. And so that because you see, I think is that Amazon that has free view now.
Yeah.
And so they're all going to they're transitioning to this Tubi based type model, because it's been successful for what I understand.
If I had money and I was Tony Khan, or if I was WWE, I would not necessarily open territories again, but I would certainly go to these towns and start running them on a regular basis and build
Once
that.
again, you have spit on the Pope.
But
I mean, the fact of the matter is that I read an article where once Collision started, they're going to reduce AEW, going to reduce the house shows. And we all know, again, what was I talking about earlier? I'm talking about how to build a town. They don't know how to build a town. Okay? They wouldn't know how to build a town if they slapped them in the face, like I said.
Well, now Chicago is the exception, because they go there every other TV taping.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about Vince McMahon. And people say, well, he was a genius. Well, he really wasn't. I don't think Vince McMahon was ever a genius. But what I think he did understand was, his syndication program is what made Vince McMahon a household name in the WWF. It wasn't his cable stuff. It wasn't what he had on USA Network. It was being on in Birmingham on whatever channels they were on. It was being on in Montgomery on whatever channel, or wherever he was at. And then going to them towns, running those towns, most likely with people like the Junkyard Dog, goes to Louisiana, puts the Junkyard Dog on there. Right. It gives them instant credibility, because everybody knew who the Junkyard Dog was, or Ted DiBiase, or Jake the Snake Roberts, goes right in there, and he runs those towns. He goes to Georgia. He puts Wrestling 2 on them. He goes ahead and he puts Roddy Piper on it that had been there. So he instantly drew those wrestling fans in. And that's the reason I believe he got to the point that he was at. And I don't know that many people, when you talk to people about wrestling today, they don't even know wrestlers anymore. Because they'll go, oh, Hulk Hogan. They're still saying Hulk Hogan, and that was 1980s.
Well, when Hulk Hogan actually commented on this not long ago about how there's no real stars. You can call them superstars all day long, but they're not real stars. He said everybody works the same way. He said they're getting to the point where most of them are the same size. He said basically you could take a Seth Rollins out of the picture if he got hurt and just put somebody else with a beard and put that same tights on him, and nobody would really argue about it. They're just so interchangeable. And he said I understand why Vince did it. He said, but I don't agree with it. He said, I think you need those Hulk Hogans. And, you need those Ultimate Warriors. You need those guys that own their presence on a card alone is going to pack a building out. And he said, they don't have that. And he said, it's not just them. He said, wrestling everywhere is that way.
Yeah, everybody runs wrestling like Vince runs wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just tuning in I had seen the thing where Nick Aldis turned, I guess, in Impact. And I watched some of the video from it, and it looked identical to WWE's product.
Mm-hmm.
It looked identical to the product. There was no difference. I watched a thing where Ospreay, is that what his name is, I think, was on AEW. Again, he comes in, I think he knocks somebody down, whoever that was, and he's standing over them, just like the WWE. And there was another story where people were talking about how that the AEW needs to go and needs to reinvent itself, or no, it was Ryback. Ryback thinks, oh, if I could come and I can play a role in getting them ratings and help them overcome the WWE. Is that the point of AEW, to overcome the WWE? Is my question. And I believe they actually think that ending the WWE will make AEW mean something. I'm sorry, not today, not tomorrow, not ever, not until AEW finds its own way. And that again was the guy, when I first read the story about the revolutionizing wrestling, maybe changing it, making it more believable. That's exactly what he was talking about. He wants to see a more believable product, something different, not the same boring. He called it boring. The same boring stuff they've been doing forever and ever. I mean, how many times? Logan Paul was sitting on the. Of course, they did a bait and switch. By the way, the match between he and Seth Rollins never happened. So now he's sitting on top of these a ladder, and so here comes somebody who has to come out to the ring, and then another one comes out to the ring. It never fails. If somebody's standing in the ring, they did it with The Miz. He was standing in the ring, and then here comes Ciampa back. Same thing over and over and over again. And that's exactly what he was saying. That's the reason he was saying it needs to be revolutionized. Not a revolutionized, it just needs to be different. And when you have one size and you have one company, everybody patterns himself out of.
Yeah.
All the rest of them are going to fail. AEW will fail. Now he's talking about, I think I read a story where one guy tells Drew McIntyre, please do not go to AEW. You will be Wardlowed. Okay. You do not want to be Wardlowed at all. Okay. So that means a big push and then they knock you down. That's exactly what they'll do to you. Don't go there. And it's probably right.
I think they're spot on with that, because that guy could have been the biggest name in their company, and he was on the rise. People were responding so positively to him, and then they just knocked him off the top of the mountain. And it made no sense.
Yeah.
It's so funny, because if someone would have the testicles to themselves to produce a brand new type of show, there was people that said, what do you mean? You're going to put masks on people and they're going to sing? That crap won't work. Nobody's going to watch that crap. Well, guess what? they turned it down. All the big three turned it down. They take it to what was it, Fox, I believe.
Mhm.
They take it to Fox. Fox says, "Yeah, let's try it." Becomes a hit show. There's other people said, "Oh, people ain't going to watch no talent show. People singing. Nobody's going to." Simon Cowell tell you he tried to sell American Idol to people for years before he got it sold.
Yeah.
But finally, somebody took the deal to do something different. For goodness sakes, if you've got the money, do something different.
And because
to be
these
different.
people are fanboys of Vince McMahon. Really, I think that some of these places are suing Vince. Vince should be suing them for stealing his intellectual property.
I agree with that.
I mean, he really should start suing AEW for his. And of course, don't get me wrong. The WWE is currently ECW. Let's just be honest. That's what it is. ECW / Lucha Libre. That's what it's morphed into. And as Paul Heyman said, and it about made me mad when I read it, that the future of wrestling was going to be outside the ring. Look, that's what it is already. That's exactly what it is right now.
You go any further outside the ring, and I hate to tell Paul this, you go any further outside the ring, you will find your product going further and further down, because the further they got away from wrestling, is the less people watched.
And a lot of the problem was, and the reason that they're doing the same thing to do, is because the WWE, for whatever reason, became the innovator of the boring chant. Not sure how that morphed into something, but I can tell you why. It morphed into that because the WWE did not have that emotional connection with the fans anymore. If a guy's over, they're not going to holler boring. It doesn't matter what they do. I've watched Jackie Fargo stand and just do punches and throw his thumbs up, and the people are going wild. I mean, that was him against Jerry Lawler in Memphis. I mean, and he's not doing nothing but smiling, punching him, put his thumbs up, and then Lawler comes in and he punches him again, and then he does a little Fargo stretch. The people are going crazy. It's the difference between being over and not being over. And I remember the boring chants when they started. We were watching the stuff from Madison Square Garden from Philadelphia, and the boring chants started. And it was the underneath matches that they were putting the new guys in that were not going to be pushed, and the people knew it.
It's sad. It's sad. It's sad the state of wrestling, and I want to see a real product. I want to see a product that has credibility.
Something different. And the fact of the matter is, every time, if you'll notice, the ratings go up after every big show, right? After every pay-per-view, normally there's a big ratings after that. People tuning in to see what happens, basically what it is. Ones that missed the show, tuning in. Imagine if you were putting that kind of thought power and brain power and enthusiasm and into the house shows, to where people are tuning in every week to see that. That's the way it was before, and make an investment in the house shows. They're not going to do it because the main revenue comes from television.
UFC, it's they're fairly a new company. Has not been along as long as WWF has been around, or WWE, what you call it now, and they make as much money profit-wise today than WWE does. So what are they going to be 10 years from now? Are they going to be the big company now that they've got Endeavor behind them, which I think Endeavor's been with them, 3 years now?
Yeah,
maybe
I think so.
Somewhere around 3. Where are they going to be 10 years from now? A product that is real. A product that you can get behind a guy because you want to get behind him, or you want to see Conor McGregor get the crap kicked out of him. One of the two.
And there you go. There's one of the key factors. He's a heel, not afraid to be a heel. and that's what we're missing. People heels today at every level are so concerned about selling their merchandise and not really hurting anybody's feelings. And you can't do that. Brock Lesnar is one of the few guys. There's no social media from him. You'll never see Brock Lesnar tweeting out, "Hey, Undertaker, that was a great match we had. I appreciate it." That's never going to happen because he appreciates what makes him money. And there's so few. Gunther, one of the few others, I mean, he'll post his personal life out there, which is fine. But he doesn't use that tool to make people like him more. And the baby faces they have, who are you connecting to? Who's going to come out like a Seth Rollins and dress like that? We don't dress like that.
Well, there are some that do, but they're also questioning exactly.
That's true too.
But they are.
But that's the reason Stone Cold got so over was because everybody understood him, especially the working class people at the time who were buying the tickets. Now, those working class people, I think, are the ones that we really lost.
Yep.
From the product. And because you can't pay $1,000 or something or more for ringside seats, you got to have money to do that. Well, that's not the working class. God bless them. I'm glad they got that kind of money. But we can't go to a show. Not that I would, but still, if I wanted to take my kids to a show, I couldn't afford to do it anymore. No. And that's sad. We used to be able to go and take our families. And you can't do that now.
Yeah, it is a sad world.
Well, all right. I want to talk about one thing about a person actually is got a tremendous amount of heat, but they've got him in the box, and that's where he's going to stay, and that's Dominic Mysterio.
Yeah,
it's really worked, and I hope that it would happen for him, and it has. But the fact of the matter is, he's not a main event wrestler. They have not. He's got the most heat of anybody, but they have not gotten him ready to be in the top spot.
I agree.
He's not ready to stand on his own. And again, I've talked from the beginning. They have not developed a finish maneuver for him at all. He should have been basically doing it the entire time. They haven't gotten him ready, so he can face Cody Rhodes all he wants to. But we know Cody's going over.
Yeah.
And because if they would have already gotten his finish over, which I'm just throwing one out, DDT or whatever on the floor or what have you, he could have been hitting that all this time in those tag matches. He could have been doing it all this time, but they haven't done anything. Where he's at is all where he's going to be at. They don't have any plans past where he's at now. And to me, he gets the biggest response of anybody.
Yeah, that's just as I've said, credibility. I want credibility. I want a believable product, and that means wrestlers. If you're a wrestler, you can't do that goofy crap.
I will say that the guy that his name was Michael Sedgwick that did this whole. He wrote a tremendous amount. I mean, there was like 6 pages of it. He talked about the AEWs thinks they're different by going blood and guts. Blood and guts doesn't draw people. Blood and guts will not draw. It doesn't matter what you do with it. It will not draw. And that they've been doing it, and it hasn't worked for them.
For goodness sake, people don't listen to Ric Flair that says blood equal money. I was there in the 1990s. Flair wasn't drawing 600 people in half the buildings he was in.
No.
It had nothing. Him bleeding had nothing to do whether or not he drew money. I understand he believes that, but that is not that.
By the way, we have another person who have stepped on our side with the Ric Flair having the same match every night, and that's Ted DiBiase. He was talking with Jake Roberts on his pod show, and he made the same statement that Flair basically had the same match. And at that time, DiBiase was talking about in the interview and with Jake, talking about how they could gauge the crowd and see what they were buying. And be able to switch in the middle of the match to see what they were doing to get over, to see what they were buying for the night. Now it's just a one size fits all. They're just going to do spot, and that's about it. And basically what he was saying in that particular one, Flair one invented that by having the same exact match basically every night.
And a lot of wrestlers in the business now, the younger ones, they want to say that we're creating art. Okay, that's fine. if you want to create art. But guys back in the day, even Ric Flair, when he actually worked in the late 70s, early 80s, uh, those guys were Rembrandts. You know, they painted such beautiful pictures in that ring and on that canvas. And now it's like a bunch of kindergartners with finger paint.
Yeah.
You know, there's no, it's I see this on YouTube a lot of people, they're going to create art. So they're throwing paint at a canvas and they spin it around, a few times, and that's their art. It takes 5 minutes to do all that.
Well, of course,
It's just not art. It's a business, guys. Go out there and treat it like such. And I don't care if you call it art; it doesn't bother me at all. But if you're not making money, you're wasting everybody's time.
it's amazing. As again, it dovetails off of what I was talking about, this revolution thing that this guy was talking about. I saw another one that says, "Why is using a table in AEW not a disqualification?" It's a very good. Why is anything not a disqualification? Why is the when the wrestlers are both down on the canvas on the back down on the mat? Why aren't the referee counting them out? They're not doing that either. Why, if they're up on the top rope, why isn't the referee counting them out? He's not doing any of that.
I don't think they really need a referee anymore.
No.
They could just
Well,
have the guy
now-
go 1, 2.
The guy in this article was saying the referees are dumb, and they don't ever see anything. They see everything. There's not. Why would you want to hide it? There's not very rare. There's not a disqualification.
Oh, and it's very obvious. They see everything that's being done in the ring, in
Sure.
the match, but they've been told not to react to it. And it's stupid.
It's so interesting because the things that we see now is the exact things that one reason Rodney did not like Kevin Sullivan, because he would do things, hit people with chairs with the referee watching, and it made not only the promotion look bad, but it also made Kevin Sullivan look bad, because here he was doing all this, and Dad didn't like to referee his matches because he said he did it right in front of me. He hit the guy with a chair. He gave the guy 22 ball shots while we were.
Oh, wait. Are we allowed to say that in this program?
I just did. 20, but Dad said, he should have been disqualified for all that. He said, wasn't no disqualification. So when he told Ron Fuller, he said, now when you try to do a match, he said, I should go out there, or somebody should go out there and say, he's been suspended. He will not be able to wrestle for 30 days. Send him to Florida, because he knows better. He knows better. He shouldn't have done it. And if you don't know, he's been wrestling since 1960. If you don't understand that, he don't need to be wrestling. And it says exact words there. And Dad didn't last too much longer after that, because he said, I'm tired of this. Rinky dink.
I remember being in the ring with Pee Wee Anderson, and Pee Wee saw something he wasn't supposed to see. And it was obvious that he had seen it. And the crowd was going wilder. I wouldn't have yelled it like I did. And I just said, disqualify me. And he did. That wasn't the finish, but it would have made him look like a fool if he had not done that.
Yeah.
And, I miss that mentality that the referee actually, has some authority. I mean, he's an official.
Dad did not like to referee the Sheik matches. And I'm talking the original Sheik.
Yeah. Because
he would use the gimmick and not even try to hide it.
Yep.
Abdullah was just as bad. Use the gimmick and not even try to hide it. And then make the business look bad.
Yeah, you don't want to have to. You don't want to
make the business look bad.
Yeah, you have to. The referee has to turn his back completely and look up into the
And it made the wrestling business bad. I think the working of the business by the 1980s got too bad, and that's the reason we're at now.
It's amazing. As I was reading that article, I hate to keep going back to that, revolutionizing wrestling was exactly what Lee Fields would do when business got bad. He would go back to the basics, and that's basically what he said. Make it believable, and basically what what he was saying, and of course I had an opportunity to meet with Lee Fields. We went to the racetrack down in Mobile, and he said it was too many BS finishes, kill your territory. And he said when you start have too many of those, he said it goes down. He said we always went back to the basics. He said it took 6 weeks. We died for 6 weeks, but after we did it, it started coming back up.
Here's the thing. Again, when we talk about territories and we talk about the killing of a territory, all you have to do is go back and watch Continental Championship Wrestling and watch the show that they had from 1984, 85, 86, and start watching the downward slide of wrestling when Kevin Sullivan got there and they allowed him to do stuff that they should not have allowed him to do. You can start seeing the business go down and down and down. And when you say something to the owner, didn't matter. And, and you can blame Vince, but that, is what puts you out of business, not Vince McMahon. And all promoters did that. You could go talk to them about something, and they wouldn't listen. Every one of them, all territory owners, you could go and talk to them about something, and they would not listen.
Oh, I've had the "it doesn't matter" response more than once. It doesn't matter.
Is what you hear them say. It doesn't matter.
People forget that,
but it did matter because they could do that stupid crap when they wasn't a WWF that people could watch instead of watching that crap you're producing, and that's exactly why you went out of business.
Well, not only just that, but
that McMahon's fault, your fault.
Well, not just that. Here comes Jimmy Crockett too.
Oh yeah. All right, let's go to the people.
They've got some good comments in there. Let me tell you.
Hasso said evening. Hasso.
Yes, it's funny. I always thought that was my name as well.
Mako. There was a ringmaster with the circus called Jimmy James. You remember that, Rodney? Right before Chris Connors for Cole Brothers Circus. That's tremendous ring announcer, great voice.
And people missed him everywhere you'd go. What happened to Jimmy James?
Yeah, great. Just a great ringmaster. For the love of DJT, whoever that is, I'm not for sure who this is. What's causing all this? Don Hester, hello all. Welcome back. We are glad to be back. Let's see. Old folk can still go. Charles Alford said. Evidently, he hadn't seen me out here because this old folk, when he worked too much outside, I can't move the next day.
Of course, the best AEW wrestler, in my opinion, is still Billy Gunn, 60 years old. So there you go.
He looks great too.
Yeah.
Good evening, guys. Oh, Kirk, Cersei, how you doing, Kirk? Victor Nash. Hello, everyone. Hope all is well. Hope you had a nice Father's Day. Let's see. Hasso. Would never become a fan if not for GCW. Georgia Championship Wrestling. Look at all these big names on this thing. They were all stars. These were all people that emotionally connected with wrestling fans. Yep. Every one of these guys. Not as much the Freebirds for some reason, but it wasn't their fault. They just was in bad booking, when they came there. They just got in bad booking and bad bookers all the way around during that time. Charles Alford,
you're being too nice. It killed them off. You're talking about the matches with he and Stan Frazier.
Yes, and Robert Fuller. They didn't do nothing for them. I'm sorry, they just didn't. Robert Fuller and John Frazier did nothing for them. They needed to work against people that people knew. They didn't know who Robert Fuller was. They didn't know.
Well, at least somebody that you're going to make if he's going to be Stan Frazier. Notice he was called Stan Frazier instead of Giant Frazier there. They should have been Giant Frazier, and he should have been
kicking some tail.
He was a big man, and there's no reason, but they got him down on all fours, and then it was hard for him to get back up.
Yeah. Imagine the Oates brothers working a program with them when they came in at that time.
Yeah, it'd have been a whole lot better than as you see, Robert Fuller did not make this poster. And Stan Frazier did make this poster because neither one of them had any emotional connection with anybody.
No.
I'm sorry they didn't. And I'm not nothing against Robert Fuller, one of the greatest talkers in the business. Got over, drew some money in Alabama. I'm not discrediting that. Drew some money as Booker in the Knoxville area, the Knoxville territory. I'm not saying that again. Just Georgia did not work for him as a booker or as a wrestler. Now he might have in 1974. I don't know, but 1980, 81, somewhere around there. It didn't work because neither one of them were over. So it made the Freebirds the baby faces.
There was a match. If there is one against Ted and Jerry Oates, and the people are hollering for the Freebirds. They're behind the Freebirds in that match.
Well, they kicked John Frazier and hurt him so badly all the time. It made them too strong. There is a deal of making your heels too strong, and you'll never draw money.
You don't think that whole thing with Ted DiBiase crying about losing Robert's car had anything to do with it?
Oh my gosh! Even Ted DiBiase will say that he really believed he was trying to kill him. He's trying to kill his so he wouldn't get over in Atlanta because it wasn't his idea to bring Ted DiBiase in. It was Jim Barnett's. I cried myself to sleep last Tuesday night, Jimmy James said, because we weren't on here.
Well, I'm sorry about that.
Hello all, Glenn Allen Shelton, Jimmy James, Gene Mean, Iran #1, Hatui.
And Shiki told me that we don't say it right. It's Iran, not Iran. He said, ain't nobody over there really likes to run. So it's not Iran anywhere. I run.
Hasso said, yeah, the Slaughter Shiki feud caused my stepdad to quit watching wrestling for good.
Oh.
Richard Lee Morgan. Hello all. It's been a while. Hope everyone is doing okay. I think we are. And we already talked about this. Victor Nash said, did you guys watch AEW Collision last Saturday night? If so, what's your thoughts? No, I did not watch it. I don't think any of us watched it. No. Is that on TBS?
I don't know.
I was thinking I thought it was supposed to be on TBS, and probably Victor can tell us, but I believe it was on TNT.
I don't have those. I don't have.
And by the way, just for anybody who wants to know, and he was very clear about this. Eric Bischoff said that he would not accept a job from AEW or the WWE for any reason. He just won't do it. So don't call him. Okay,
he's like 66 years old now.
Oh, he's 69, I think.
They're not going to.
Well, it doesn't matter. He's not. Even if they ask him, he's not going to go there and work.
A little old for them to call him, because
I don't know. Vince McMahon can still call him a kid. So.
Charles said he watched it.
Hey, the Vince don't go to the shows anymore, does he? Don't he just Don't he just watch them like on TV?
He was in. He was at one show here not too long ago, a couple of weeks back. They were close to the home office. So
but most of the time, don't sit at home or somewhere.
Yeah, he just.
He's remote. He's remote working.
He's remote, and he changed the opening for last night from internet reports. Now I don't know how true it is, but
well, I could. If he changed it, you can see that there was no difference than a normal show.
Charles Alford said, "Yes, I did, and I'm not for sure what we asked him about."
Well, and that they want to try to get out of not having the match between he and Logan Paul. That was the whole reason of doing it. I have to admit, the R3S did a great interview, and I was surprised by that.
Kevin Penley, good evening. Would Tony Khan really benefit picking the brains of Bill Watts or Ron Fuller? No, I don't think so. They made so many mistakes. Bill Watts, prior to 1986, yes. But any Bill Watts after 1986, I'm not for sure. I don't think his mind was in it, and don't think he cared. Ron Fuller by 1982.
And let's be honest, if you brought them in today's world, they couldn't contribute anything to it because they wouldn't understand it.
No, and they wouldn't want to. They wouldn't want to.
Well, the fact of the matter is, Tony wouldn't listen to them anyway.
No.
I mean, he has Arn Anderson, and he never listens to him either. So
Yeah, I don't think number
the
one.
only person that I believe he's listening to, from what I understand, is Daniel Bryanson.
But at some point, and we watched it happen. We watched Bill Watts just get to where he didn't care anymore. I mean, we watched it. We saw it happen.
Well, it's it's late nights taking those dark journeys, losing focus.
And the same thing happened to Ron Fuller. It's like he didn't care because if you want to run a wrestling territory and you want to be successful, you better be there. And as long as they were there in the building and they were part of it, it was fine. You take them at home and they want to sit at home and sitting on the beach or
do it by remote,
and have you some dark journeys. Your business is not going to do well. And that's exactly what
I don't think Tony Khan would have listened to him anyway.
No.
I don't think he would have any.
No, he really has guys there now that could seriously help him, and he doesn't listen to them. So it doesn't matter who you bring in; he's not listening.
They went 1,000 MPRs. I'm guessing he's talking about Collision. Slow down, tell a story. Slow down, tell a story. Don't slow down so much that you're telling a headlock story for 20 minutes. But you probably could if you did it right. I've seen Nick Bockwinkel tell a story with an armbar and with Wendell Cooley, and the people went nuts.
Yep.
He knew what he was doing.
If you ever want to see, watch the match between Bob Armstrong and the Stomper, when the crowd in Memphis just goes nuts over a headlock, and it was the way Bob was doing it and the way the Stomper was selling it. The place was standing over a headlock. It was amazing.
And they made a big deal. Bob did the same thing with an arm bar. Just taking the arm. He could do that when Brian Blair couldn't get away with it. But Bob could do it and work it for 15 minutes and keep it entertaining.
Yeah.
He was that good. Bob Armstrong was that good. And he was
once in a lifetime.
Yeah, I had one of those headlock matches with him, and I remember him. We didn't go over stuff. We found out what our finish was, and when I went out there, or we were getting ready to go out, I said, "What do you want to do?" And he said, "Let's just do the headlock tonight." Okay, and that's what we do. And man,
the proper selling of that got over.
Exactly.
Just have to sell it right.
Joe Jacobs said, "I was wondering if Ole Anderson's still around." Yes, I believe he is, but I believe he's in bad. I've heard that he's in pretty bad. They don't remember all that anymore. Yeah. Which I think that was coming on a long time ago. Even I think it was.
Could you imagine a conversation between Ole and Tony Khan? I'd pay to see that. I would pay to see.
I'm pretty sure that would be a one-way conversation.
Because people are convinced today that the wrestling that they're producing is the way to go. This same thing was happening to the territory days. When you would go to the people run and say, "Listen, I think we need to do it a little different than what we were doing it for the last 5 years. Let's do something different." They wouldn't listen to them. So it's nothing new about not listening. The territories needed to change, and when they were changed, and they needed to change with the times, that they were unwilling to change with them. They wouldn't do anything different. They would do the same formula that is being done today, and they would not get themselves out of that formula. And tag team matches had a formula in Continental Championship Wrestling. And we fought until guys quit doing that formula. That formula that sell, get the tag, and then go home needs to quit. We said people have seen it. Let's try something different. Didn't matter what you tried. They'd still went in there. The more you told them, the more they went on their way to do their stuff.
And then just as Georgia Championship Wrestling did to the state of Georgia, went somewhere else. Continental did the exact same thing to Alabama. They went into Knoxville, poured everything into Knoxville, and then left the rest.
And the people in Dothan really never, recovered from that. They were always upset that happened. Was it a big fan of Chris and Sonny Dark side of the ring? A lot of emotions seemed forced, but what do you expect after so many years, Rick Brooks? I didn't watch it. Did y'all watch it?
I haven't watched it yet. I watched every episode this season except that.
Let's see. Go to YouTube and watch the match between Andrade, Charlotte Flair's husband, and Buddy Matthews, Rhea Ripley's boyfriend. Was it good?
I think that's the one where Andrade did Charlotte's finish on Buddy at the end of the match.
Oh,
excellent.
My other question was, Rodney going to team with Kevin Sullivan at one point? Was it Kevin Sullivan at one time Johnny West?
Yes, he absolutely was.
And it kept our father from going in as Ronnie West because Kevin was already wrestling as Johnny West.
Yep,
and that was the Gulf Coast Wrestling. And I can't remember, what did he go as? I can't remember.
Dad went as right.
So there you go. So, yeah. Richard Lee Morgan. I know everyone has to give AEW a chance because just watching WWE over and over, it's not the same. Watching wrestling in the 80s sure missed those glory years. And I'm not saying that wrestling has to go. I don't think wrestling can go backwards. It has to go somewhere different.
Yeah.
That's I'm not saying let's take wrestling back to the 1960s. I'm saying that there's got to be something different. There's got to be just something different.
You can still do the spots, but put something in between them now. Actually do some little, some mat wrestling, or hey, do this. Tell a story. And it doesn't mean you can't do all the other stuff that's being done. But everybody's doing the same thing because there's only so much you can do when you're, flying 1,000 miles an hour. You can't. So if somebody would just veer off the highway just a little bit, it would improve either product.
Yeah.
And by the way, we've given AEW a chance. And I want it to be good. I love watching wrestling, but man, when you insult my intelligence with it, it's difficult for me to, be a cheerleader for you.
Well, they were asking if I was supposed to team with Kevin Sullivan, and the answer is we were going to, but we decided just to have me work the entire match because I would have anyway.
Kevin Penley, good to have Jack back.
Be back.
Hasso, I like that. Jimmy James, he was one of the old school fans and seen them having a beer during that run. They must have went out their way to avoid fans, so went 45 minutes out there. Let's see,
out of their way, yeah.
Out of their way because of that. We're in Pittsburgh that night. Let me go down here. Some of this. Because they do too much stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they do too much stuff.
Yeah, that went back to our last show that we were on where Cornette was talking about how the other wrestlers disrespected the AEW main event because they did too much stuff. And it's not the wrestlers that did too much stuff. It's the fact that Tony doesn't know what he's doing. He's like, oh, that's just great. Go ahead and do whatever you want to on the matches. Those are great.
Richard Lee Morgan, they just need to let wrestling come back and let territories come back, which won't happen because Vince McMahon won't let it happen. It can happen, but you got to have money to do it. It requires, almost every show requires between $12,000 to $17,000 today. Doesn't matter what show you run, it's going to cost you. A good show is going to run you from let's just say 12 to 20,000. It's just according to what you're going to do. But it's never going to be less than 12, and that's a good show. And so it costs money today, and so in turn, the fans have to pay some money out. So I don't know that you could ever go back to weekly wrestling because I don't know that the people can afford a $35 ticket that you'd have to do today. But I do believe a monthly show, even a every other month show in a place could do well. It's just there's got to be somebody who is willing to invest, and if they only invest with it and produce a different product than what people have seen on television, I think you could be very successful today. People are going back and watching now, and great crowds for the roller derby. Have you seen this? The resurgence of people buying a ticket to go see roller derby?
Yeah.
Because they're wanting to see something live and something that is theirs. People know WWE, AEW is not theirs. They want something that is theirs. And I think that's the reason wrestling, I think that's the reason Georgia failed. I think that's the reason Southeastern failed, because they quit making it about theirs. Dothan, Alabama should have been about them. But no, we take it away and give it to let's take Dothan away and let's give it all to Knoxville. And I think it hurt.
And nowhere else. Basically nowhere else. I mean, they went to Knoxville. TV was basically in Birmingham at the time, and then they switched it to Montgomery. But then after that, it was all about Knoxville.
I'm not for sure what that means. What does this mean?
It was something we were talking about earlier, but yeah, it was funny when I read it when it first came up.
Kayfabe died and took the business with it.
I think, though, that there's a new way of kayfabe, and that's just simply shutting up. Quit giving out everything. Make it real, like we've said so many times on tonight's podcast. People, you're never going to change people's mind. But if you do it the right way, they can forget while they're there and invest emotionally into that product. But they ain't going to do it when you're John Moxley throwing chops and slapping your leg at the same time.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm glad I didn't watch that one.
Oh, God, I saw that clip the other day, and I got mad. I couldn't even go to sleep for 10 minutes.
Good evening, gentlemen, from Richard Hood. How you doing, Richard?
It's disgusting, and the leg slapping is getting worse.
God. Yeah.
Oh, it's getting tremendously worse.
Hasso said this is true. I was about 11 when I started figuring it out, but me and my mom knew it would bother him. I guess he's talking about his father.
Yeah, that's slaughtering
the shiggy baby. Yep. Corporate America has proven over and over again that they don't care about what the people want. It only cares about what they're forced down our throat. People these days, they are fighting back, I've noticed. They are showing that we are in control, and they are showing people that we see that happening on a daily basis now with businesses. So they'll eventually show who is in charge. Victor Nash, does anybody know how to find out the Collision viewership ratings? I looked everywhere. Maybe they're in yet.
Yeah, they're not in yet because this was a 3-day weekend. But PW Insider is a great news source for stuff.
Well, if it was huge, Tony Khan would be out screaming, "Oh, it was big! It was one of the greatest ratings of all time."
Richard Lee Morgan said that's why WWE went to streaming. Here's the problem with it: they went to streaming, and I think it might have been a good idea, but then they sold their streaming basically to NBC, Peacock Network, which is doing horrible. Numbers are just dismal. And, now they'll say, well, 2 million people subscribe because of WWE. But the problem is it doesn't hold up in there. If you go and look at the bottom line of there, it doesn't even show there's 2 million people that buy the thing on a monthly basis. So
I saw a Peacock commercial to subscribe, and it was all about WWE. That was all it was about.
Well, that's probably the only thing they have that people would want to see.
It is. That's their, I guess, single biggest draw.
I mean, you think about it. They don't have anything else. NBC has nothing else anymore. That used to be the company, didn't it? I mean, wasn't
Well,
that?
speaking of canceling things in NBC, the Young Rock bit the dust.
Yep.
But you know what? That was their fault because they just went so far out there in left field with the stories and there was never. I mean, in the truest wrestling fan who was watching that went. Oh, wait a minute now. There ain't no way Junkyard Dog was there. He was in so there.
Well, it's been a
That's
better
what I was
week.
gonna
It's
say.
been
I
a better
watched-
few weeks for The Rock because he and his XFL took a $6 million loss too. So he's been taking it on the chin many times.
That's one of the reasons why I never could get into Young Rock was, the characters and I thought they did a great visual presentation, of those guys, but they weren't there at the same time. And it's just like me being in the military, watching a military movie and guys having hair on their ears. It drives me crazy. It's those little details that are not right that get me, and I just won't watch it.
And I think that's what happened to him. It just he would just get away with and truly was not telling. He was trying to tell the story of the Rock, the Young Rock, but he wasn't putting people like Lars Anderson wasn't. Is it Downtown Bruno really wasn't in the deal, and that was his part of his.
Those ratings would have went through the roof.
Well, I'm not saying
with
I'm just
the Lars Anderson, Kevin Sullivan, Mark Lewin thing. I mean. That would have been. I'm talking. That would have busted all ratings.
Well, they couldn't do Lars justice because it's hard to find a guy that size with flabby skin everywhere.
You know what? So, okay, Miss Peter Maivia, she really and truly got in trouble in Hawaii. It was a true story, but they didn't really tell the story the true way, what happened in Hawaii and why she got in trouble. They kind of went around that story, not to really, because I believe she's still alive, right?
No, I don't think she is.
She passed away now. But here's the thing. Tell the true story, but it was almost like he did not want to tell that true story. But because the story is very interesting, we'll have to tell the story one day on here. It's a very interesting story that happened, and Lars Anderson was part of that story. So it's an incredible story. What is Rollins the world champion of? Roman still has a Raw belt. Makes no sense. Just like the interim champs from Kevin Penley. Yeah, the interim champs.
I agree, Kevin. It doesn't make sense. I mean, if they had gone over and taken the two belts back from Roman and gave him that single belt, but from my understanding, and I haven't watched it in a few weeks, he's still coming out with 3 belts now.
Yeah, he is. Eventually, they're supposed to phase them out. But yeah, he's still coming out with the 3 belts.
Yeah.
I think about
Big W. They're all 3 the same with big W's.
I think about the impact from cable. I can think about how people still get newspapers, but see, that's a lot of people ain't getting newspapers anymore. And that's happening to cable. If it continues, and all you have to do, don't take my word for it. Do your research. See where cable was in 2010 and to where it is now. They have lost over 60% at this point of who used to have cable. That's the reason the ratings are not as good for each one of these wrestling shows. So, it's sad, really. I don't have cable because I'm not paying them $325 a month. I'm just not paying them. That's just ridiculous for me to pay that when I can't find nothing on it anyway. So I might as well get Hulu and Netflix and not find something there. And it's a whole lot cheaper. Mr. Hood, happy to see you in the chat. Let's see, Victor. Let's see, where we at? Victor Nash. Is anybody going to watch Forbidden Door Sunday?
No, I'm forbidden from opening that door.
Yeah, I don't think I'd pay like $90 or something to watch the pay-per-view.
I don't know. The last one I got was $59 because I just wanted to see if the pay-per-views were better than the TV. And they answered that question completely for me to the point where I will never pay for another one.
What used to get us about watching pay-per-views, and we were paying for them here, when we first got our satellite dish. We were paying for them every time. And then we got to the point where why should we pay when they're going to tell us everything that happens the next night on TV for free? So we just stopped getting them.
Richard Lee Morgan, that's why Vince should have never messed with the territories and let wrestling be and let wrestling grow instead of buying out there. But he really didn't buy nobody. He just waited for him to go out.
He bought Georgia. That's it.
Yeah. I don't know that he bought anybody else's territory. He may have done. He may have bought Bret Hart's dad.
No, he never paid for it. Bret was real big about that in an interview that his dad never saw a dime.
And then, of course, Vince could not partner good with Paul Bosch. That did not work at all.
No.
And Vince gets. I understand that they've heard wrestlers talk about it, and they've heard promoters of the time, whether it be Ron Fuller, Bill Watts, Bob Geigel, I don't know, Mike Graham, and blame Vince, but we were working for the territories then. We were there at most of them. We know why they were going out of business. It had nothing to do with Vince.
He didn't put them out of business. He just picked the bones after it was dead.
Yes,
and I don't blame him for that.
No, he had nothing to do with the territories failing. They did it to themselves. We watched it be done. We watched
the inability to work with one another.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
and let's look at it. Is that every territory that was significant all went down within just a couple of years of each other.
Yeah,
so Vince didn't have that kind of money then.
No,
he couldn't have done that.
No.
He just waited. He knew they wasn't going to make it. He tried to tell a bunch of them. They didn't want to listen.
And because, they were doing things. Jim Barnett was the one that knew.
Yeah.
People can say whatever. Jim Barnett knew Ron Fuller. He knew Bob Geigel. He knew every promoter that was running wrestling. And he knew them well. So he could say, oh, they'll never do that. We can go in there and do that, and they'll never compete with us. They'll never take their money out of their pockets, never compete with us. They'll never put it back into the business. He said, so we can just go ahead. We can just go ahead and do that. We'll just run against them every month on a Monday night in Birmingham, and eventually we'll start doing good and they'll start doing bad because they'll do something stupid, and they will do something stupid. Let's just be honest with you, because Jim Barnett knew because he did stuff stupid. So he understood that wrestling promoter was going to do something stupid, and you just waiting for that wrestling promoter to do something stupid, and it never failed. Do something stupid, and they would always hurt themselves. They knew they could watch television. They could see Birmingham, Ron and Fuller, and Continental was going to go out of business because their TV program kept on moving everywhere, and they knew just wait it out because there's no way he's going to be able to survive it. And it had nothing to do with booking. That Birmingham did not die because of booking, because they when they were doing stuff, they were trying to it was just they lost a good TV. They just lost TV there and never recovered from it when they started moving that TV. Kevin Penley, I like the Saturday night spot, but the announcers are another deal. They are horrible. I can't listen to that Raw ring announcer.
He's awful.
I don't even listen
terrible.
to the sound of this stuff. So
I've turned the sound off so I won't have to, because the commentary is equally on Raw is awful.
Well, Jim Ross even has taken himself off the show on Saturday nights because he's got some health issues, and he said until he can get back to where he should be, he's just going to stay away.
He failed, didn't he?
Yeah, he had an awful looking black eye. I mean, he was bruised all over. It was horrible looking.
Maybe he was thinking that he was going to do what Gordon Soley did. Gordon Soley did that same thing in Knoxville, fell down the escalators and beat himself up bad. I know we shouldn't laugh about that, but he really did do that, and they had to pick him up because he was,
usually.
House shows are a thing of the past. They were usually used to get wrestlers to get a feel for each other. I think they could care less now. But see, there's the thing. Back in the territory days, they wasn't really used for that. They were used to continue the story between 2 to 4 people, and most of the time it was a tag match and a single match, and the rest of the matches were just there to fill in. It was to continuously tell a story, then go on television, tell the story a little bit more, go back to the arena, really bump it up. It was made to make money.
Build a town.
It was build the town. That's
Build
what
the
it
town.
was. And when it stopped drawing with Tommy Rich and Ole Anderson in the main event, well, guess what? Tommy Rich was back down to the third match, and Stan Hansen and Dick Slater was the main event. That's just the way it was back then. People don't understand the territory days. They really don't. It was well done in the 70s, and it really the early 80s. But by the time 84 come along, something happened, and I don't know what it was. And a good way to get one of your draws injured. I'm thinking about that 1,000 miles that Richard Lee. Richard said no audio. You're talking about us? Or is he just saying no audios of how he watches it?
Well, that's the way I watch it. That's exactly how I watch it. Occasionally, I will stop it. That's the reason I know that Braun Breaker, as I call him, R3S, did a great interview, and actually better than what I'd seen him doing over on the other Rinky Dink show, NXT.
Guys, did Vince pay Joe? No, he did not pay him for the time slot. He lost it. He lost it almost overnight for some poo-poo.
The pig manure dump on Bobby
Not
Jaggers.
only Joe didn't believe that Dallas would ever come down, WCCW would ever come down and try to run his area, and they did. So he was getting hammered every which way he turned.
He was. Victor Nash, have you heard the rumors about AEW is interested in signing Goldberg? Go ahead. I mean, might as well give him money. We'll take some money too there, Tony. I mean, we won't like your product, but we'll take your money, about like everybody else is there. We don't have to like it.
I can pretend to be a bad guy, so I can pretend to like your product.
When I first watched a chair shot was shocking. Never mind a table. Yes. Let's see. Happy to see you in chat. Let's see. Kevin Penley. Rodney. Think about these talk shows like Miz TV. Same fight, different segment. Super Kick. And also, before they go to commercial, they ask the question as they go to break, will Seth overcome this? Same weekly.
Yeah.
The same things that hurt the territory. Let's be honest. That's what's killing the territories. The same crap was being done over and over again. And you could not tell them any different. You just couldn't. Well, what if we change it? It might get worse. Well, it couldn't get no worse.
I remember, Kevin, if you remember another show I really liked. Will Batman get out of this? Could this be the end of the Cape Crusader? Hold your seats. The worst is yet to come. We'll find out next bat time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Same thing.
Hasso said, do something once it gets over. Do it once a week, it loses its luster.
Yeah.
We understand that, but I don't know if they understand that. They're not listening to nobody. It's not listening to their fans anymore. He is at backdrop logo. It's WCW. Yeah, I think almost all that stuff does look like what was the show they had on?
Nitro.
Nitro. It's almost the same. Almost looks like the same stuff.
Probably that's the point.
There's nothing intellectually about AEW. Yes, this is true.
They'll have their ladder matches soon.
Kevin Penley, and backstage, they're strutting down the hall, grinning, and here comes Byron. Then a brawl, predictable.
Yes.
Let's see. I would focus on building the underneath and mid-card talent. Well, you should be able to do. You should be doing that. People don't care about it if you don't.
Well, and then if they do get somebody like we're talking about Dominic, they got him. He's in mid card and should be headed to the main event by now because, like I said, he's got the most heat. But they have no intentions of making him the top guy.
All right, I think Jack is fixing to drop out. His computer is on its
yeah, last legs for some reason. I've got it direct current, but for whatever reason, it's not liking it.
I'm having the same exact problems. It looks like it's going in and out, but I'm still here. It's going dark.
All right, I'll see y'all.
All right, see y'all. I like Hulk Hogan from David Mullins. Michael Rubian. What was Ole Anderson's relationship like with Dustin and Crockett Roach? I think they got along.
Yeah, the Crockett's like Ole.
Yeah.
Jimmy Crockett, the Crockett's like Ole.
Let's call it as it is. If Tony keeps picking his nose, there's one destination. Hope there's no Vaseline in it. Let's see. Michael Rubin, do you guys feel the Break Up the Bloodline has been booked properly? I don't know. I haven't watched it, Rodney.
Yeah, I think it's decent. You just can't keep on doing the same thing over and over again. So I think it's pretty decent, and I think they're going to get a pretty good house in the Money in the Bank.
Richard Hood, Jack, I agree. Hill shouldn't be selling pictures or signing autographs at shows. I don't know that they know what the difference between Hill and Babyface is today, though.
No, they don't.
I remember buying reserved seats, red chairs at the Municipal Auditorium in Atlanta, $7.50, and that was an expensive seat. Let's see. Well, Omni was always expensive back in the day, if you remember when you used to monthly show the Omni. Richard Lee Morgan, because of greed, my mom used to take me to a wrestling show at high school. In the early 80s, tickets were so cheap in the 80s, $10 to $25. It was awesome back then. Tickets are too expensive today. It's just any Iron Sheik stories. You know, we didn't really hang around. We just got that one Iron Sheik story. We always liked him, though. He was always a nice guy to us. He was never disrespectful to us. He always
no. And the first time he came to Georgia twice, actually. First time he was there, I remember Burrhead Jones was in one of the towns. It was Jasper, Georgia, and he ran Burrhead all up into the bleachers everywhere. He liked Burrhead. He was trying to. I don't know what he would have done if he'd have caught him, but he ran old Burrhead all up down those bleachers.
Jimmy James says you wouldn't call him Amy to his face. As far as blood goes, if it means nothing, then why expect something? Yeah, it has to mean something. If you're just doing it just to be doing it, it's just doesn't.
And lots of times when they did it back in the day, it was just meaningless, absolute meaningless.
Yeah. Charles offered 1-2 kick out.
Oh, you also have to be surprised that your opponent kicked out as well.
Art was angles like blinding the dog. Yes. And the Von Erich Birds feud. All they need to do is go back and watch that, and they'll see how wrestling is supposed to be done. Those were some great angles, great stuff that was done. And you got Michael Hayes there, but I can hear Michael Hayes. All right. No, you're right. Do that stuff behind the scenes, because he's just looking for a paycheck until he gets ready to retire. That's just all he cares, because he can't be thinking any of that crap is good. You could violate Aubrey in the ring and get DQ'd.
Yep.
And not get DQ'd. Yeah, you could. You could just beat the crap out of her. Yeah, but she'd kick you with the hind leg from. Your thoughts on LA Knight? I've not seen him in a long time.
Decent. I think decent. LaKnight, I think, is going to be big. I think they've got big plans for him myself, and yeah, we'll see. We will see. He might be caught like Dominic in that one little position and go any further, but tremendous potential for LaKnight.
Jimmy James, did he have a middle name? I guess we're talking about the ring master. I don't know. I'm not sure he did. I never met him. but
yeah, he was that was his last year when we finally came in. Dad was there the year before when he was doing his retirement. I guess we would call it retirement. He did come back well, they had one show he had to because the sponsors insisted on.
What's the award Les Thatcher got this past week? I'm not for sure. I hadn't heard about it. Kevin Penley. I'm not for sure. I'll have to figure that out and get with you next week. They made a fool out of Stan Frazier back in '81. They did, yes. Richard. Really bad. I mean, just made him look horrible, and then really made Teddy DiBiase out to be a fool as well. I mean, they just did them. Robert really did them bad. Just some bad booking all the way around. Love Robert Fuller, but that was some bad booking at that point. Rodney, great dark journey joke.
Yes. Bill's wife found it very funny as well.
Guys, when you are over the fence, it doesn't matter what move you make in the ring, Richard.
That's correct. Yes. Exactly right.
Let's see. Ole would go bananas dealing with Tony Khan. It would be the worst than dealing with Jim Herd. Yes.
Dad would tell the stories where Ole is threatened to throw Jim Herd out of the windows up there.
I was at the office. I'd went in. They had Ole said, "Hey, I need somebody to do the voiceovers, the promos." That's what they called promos back then when they told who was going to wrestle in the towns. He said, "I need somebody to come and do them once a week." He said, "Will you come down here and just do some voiceovers, do some promos, and let them hear you, and we'll be ready to go." And so I went down with Tony Schiavone, and I knew from the time I was going down through there, I knew it wasn't going to happen. I could just tell the way Tony Schiavone was acting. This wasn't going to happen. But I was in the office after, and I heard Ole cussing Jim Herd like a dog. "That's a effing work, you stupid." I mean, he was cussing him like a dog. And Jim Ross was in the room with me. He was sitting there with me, and I thought, man, how does he get away with that? Ole came back out after cussing him for about 15 minutes, and I was sitting there, and Ole looked at Dad and said, "That's the stupidest." Ole, how Ole was. He was just cussing him like a dog. He is the stupidest person I've heard. Dennis Mitchell, please tell me how the documentary on the grounds, Mike Eddy, Dr. Jerry Graham. Does Rodney and Brent have any good Dr. Jim Graham? I don't know that I ever met Jerry Graham.
We've never.
Luke Graham.
We never met Dr. Jerry.
I don't know that we met Eddie Graham.
I didn't meet. No.
He was just never anywhere where we were at. Now he might have been in Atlanta in 1974 when we were there, but I was only 4 years old. Even if I'd met him, I don't know if I'd remembered it. Most folks say Ole wanted the big paycheck, and since he didn't have much to visit, he'd shrug and listen to what Herd wanted. You know what? He didn't know. I was there. He cussed him. He would cuss him like a dog. Ole didn't care. He cussed everybody. There was 2 or 3 other people there that I don't even know who they were. He cussed them. I don't even know who them people. You could hear him everywhere too. The Dad's office was right next door to him, and I'm guessing Jim Herd was in Ole's office. I'm guessing that was what it was. But see, he shouldn't have had to explain himself to Jim Herd, though. But, if you want me to book it, let me book it. I don't want to explain something to you. I mean, the Vice documentary on the Grahams. Well, I have to see that. Charles Offer gave you some clips. Bishop Michael Nasby. It's been a while. I would love and have tried to give AEW a chance, but I can't because the content isn't good. I'd rather watch Impact Wrestling, and it's lame, too. Let's see. Brent, I disagree. I think wrestling should go back to the 70s. I mean, I agree the concept of it is. I think that, it's my opinion, you don't have to go way back. You can kind of meet it in the middle, but I just don't think today, what they're producing today will ever get past 2 million people. I just don't think that product will get past 2 million people. I'm so sorry. I know that sounds bad, but I just don't believe it will. Rodney, do you think they'll ever get past 2 million people?
I think as I've said before, and as Mr. Heyman said, the further away from wrestling they get, the worse it'll get. In my opinion.
Good evening to the gurus of pro wrestling. Thank you so much for that. I wish I could have had a dark That's horrible. Where is Joe Pedicino and his catalog? Somebody, maybe you guys and Ron Fuller should reconnect and resurrect the Joe did Saturday nights of the old wrestling. You know, it's his shoe was very unique, and that was the only place that all wrestling shows were all played at one time in one place. What was 6-8 hours of wrestling? We watched a lot of our wrestling out of there. When you get tapes from people would tape it in Atlanta and send it to us. Exactly. Young Rock went way out there. Yeah, they did. It was bad. WWE's doing too much with all those belts for what?
Well, as you notice, they're eliminating the Raw and SmackDown. The brand championships are all gone. I don't think there's one left.
Buzz made back them pay him $10,000 for a wrestling license. You know what's so sad about it is, Buzz was he was a character, but what's so bad about it is, when you think about this, is, man, how gullible was some of these people to pay this guy this? I mean, I don't know. It was a different time, and Buzz was a big star, was being pushed. So I maybe so. Maybe you would. I always heard Haku is considered the toughest guy outside the ring. How do you think he would do against Brock Lesnar? Lesnar seems pretty tough. I wouldn't want to be in the room.
No, I'm with you. I don't think so.
I wouldn't want to be in the room because they tear that room to pieces. Because I think it'd be a stalemate. I think they're both tough people. What happened in '84 might have something to do with the South American product was everywhere overnight, everywhere. Let's see. You folks have a good night. Time for this old man to get some sleep. We're fixing to get off of here as well. And let's see. With Les, I think it's the Iowa Award. Rodney, anything we need to talk about before we leave?
Well, a couple of things. Carlito possibly heading back to WWE, and I would understand what. I understand that why, because take a look at what happened in Puerto Rico. Just tremendous reactions down there. Andrade is still looking, and he's still lobbying for the AEW talent split. Apparently, the WWE rejects are all there. They're all ones pushing for this split. Tony Khan, from what I understand, has not made his decision as of yet. And the Disco Inferno, and as we all know, the Disco Inferno is an expert in all wrestling. One of the great trendsetters. He set the world on fire with his tremendous wrestling ability. Let's just be honest about that. But now he's talking about the great bidding war with the Miz JF, as his contract apparently is going to be coming to an end. Got some news for you, Disco. Nobody's going to be bidding for the Miz JF. Nobody. Just the only person that's going to keep him will be Tony. WWE will care less.
Why would they want him?
That's a good question.
You only want someone who gets ratings. And why would you want somebody that doesn't get as many ratings as they got? If he can't beat them now, he certainly can't help them any. So that's all there is to it. You only want to get wrestlers. Why did Vince McMahon want Junkyard Dog? Because Junkyard Dog, he broke records, attendance record in Mid-South.
Exactly. He was a proven commodity. He was a proven success.
Ted DiBiase was a proven success. So that's the reason he wanted to. Hulk Hogan was a proven success. He had drew a ton of money for AWA and Vern Gagne. So they wanted him. But what has MJF done for anybody in the wrestling business? There's 332 million people in the United States of America, and you can't even pull 800,000 people to watch your show. When in the 1970s and 80s, 30 to 40 million people watched wrestling on television each week. It's just a sad state of affairs when you produce the crap that they produce. And you know, if I was Roman Reigns, I'd be so mad. You mean to tell me I went out there and I did all that stuff? I did everything I needed to do, and then, but for 2 hours prior to that, you did all that bull crap. I mean, why should I eat? Why should just give me some comedy crap? You did comedy for 2 hours, so why should I be serious? He said, because that just makes me look like I'm a serious man in a comedy program. He says it never has gotten over, never will get over. Why am I being serious? And why are people going to believe in me when all you're seeing is comedy for 2.5 hours, and then for my 30-minute segment or 15-minute segment, you want me to be serious? Makes no sense. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Rodney?
Well, there is supposed to be some kind of CM Punk breaking news story. I never did hear what that was. Maybe someone can tell us.
He probably got hurt.
It's very possible, or the fact that his gym membership was canceled. And that could be it as well. Him and Samoa Joe must go to the same gym.
On that thought, we'll see you next week right here on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. What we're going to be talking about, I don't know. I am trying to finish up the Georgia Championship Wrestling. I'm doing a little bit more research, 1953, 54, and trying to do a little bit more research because they started doing their first television program in 1954. So I want to get a little bit more information before we go on. All right, Rodney, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll see everybody right here on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out next week.